When was the last time you ever saw a discreet but powerful main character in your films? Hi, my name is Zora. I'm a filmmaker based in Switzerland, and I'm right now developing my first feature film called Solitary Bird. It follows the story of Arya, a socially isolated teenager who needs to make a friend and kind of like own her space in the world before she completely disappears. I just wanted to talk about some of the films that inspired my feature. The first film I want to talk about is A Quiet Girl by Colm Boyd, which follows Kate, a 12-year-old who lives in the Irish countryside, who is part of this sort of very large family that is stretched incredibly thin. They decide to send her away for the summer at a distant relative's house. And luckily for Kate, the slightly shy, slightly inward looking child, this family falls in love with her completely. I was completely taken away by how precious and delicate this story was. From the visuals to the writing to the performances, it just really completely took me in. The pacing is slow, but that is completely deliberate. It's done to allow you to spend time with Kate, to see the world through her eyes, to understand the world through her pacing, etc. Like, it's just so, so, so stunning. Kate doesn't speak a lot, but through her observations, through the way that other people react to her, you can totally understand her intelligence, her softness, her kindness, and the way that she completely influences the movie. It's like her presence is felt throughout the movie without her having to say almost a word. It's incredible. I also really liked the use of color. Like, they use really soothing colors. They use colors that remind us of nature. So you've got the greens, the browns, the beiges. Sometimes you've got the yellows. Like, I think her dress is yellow. It's really beautiful. It's really soft and soothing, and it really, really lends itself to this delicate story. The next film I want to talk about is called Bird by Andrea Arnold, which follows Bailey, a 12-year-old. It's a coming-of-age story as well. Anyway, Bailey is navigating a really chaotic home life with a single father that is sort of a little unhinged, not entirely responsible. And she, I don't know, like, she's full of grit and creativity. She stands up to her dad. Then she's also really caring. Like, she comes across this sort of loss so a little later in the film, and they go on this beautiful journey that brings them closure. Yeah, I don't know, I just found her to be such a stunning character. The way that Andrea Allen also like uses nature, specifically sort of fields and water, and the sky as symbols of freedom, obviously, but also like symbols of rebirth, symbols of growth as well, felt so beautiful, and I really would love to find ways to incorporate that into my own writing. And then continuing on from that subject, like visually, she uses a lot of wide shots and wide lenses to frame her characters within the vastness of nature. And you can see that, like, to me, it portrays their loneliness, it portrays their fragility. Like, you see their small scale compared to the nature around them, but at the same time, you never lose sight of the characters, which kind of gives them this like weird, fragile, but larger than life vibe. Like, it's really impressive. The next movie is called Broken by Rufus Norris, I believe, which follows this young girl called Skunk, who lives in a slightly run-down suburb of England. It feels like a small town in England that's like kind of decaying a little bit. And she, I mean, I was completely taken in by the raw performances of the entire cast. I mean, obviously, Cillian Murphy, Tim Roth, but especially Eloise Lauren, who portrays Skunk, completely blew me away. Like every time she came on screen, I was just stuck. Um, I don't know. She is able to portray her with such vulnerability, but also like such a clear-eyed perspective on the world around her, which felt really faithful to the way that a kid looks at the world. Yeah, I don't know, like she's still a kid learning about the world around her, but because violence suddenly and unexpectedly erupts into her life, she has to learn very quickly. And maybe that's also where the clear-eyed element comes in. But yeah, anyway, continuing from like still the performances, I felt like there's a beautiful amount of space given to the love and the care that each character has for each other and all of the relationships. Because despite the violence, despite the complicated living situations, despite the messy lives of all of these people, you can tell that they really love each other. And that's all kinds of love. It's like father-daughter love, brotherly love, friendship, etc. So I don't know. That was really beautifully done. And then also visually, sometimes she will make sure that the characters are at the same height and that they occupy the same amount of space on screen, which I think was incredibly efficient to show that these relationships are meant to be perceived as equal. I really hope to be able to incorporate some of these elements into my writing. If I can make them, if I can make my feature half as good as any of these movies, I would be so happy. I also realized that all of the main characters in the movies that I mentioned don't talk a lot, but they have an incredible influence on the story and on the characters in the story, which kind of made me think